A minute for us to let him in.
Okay, your host again. There you go.
Great, thanks. Bye-bye.
And we're up. So bye-bye. You guys have a great class.
Thanks. You too. Have a good day. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Those of you live joining us by live streaming, as well as from Get Set Up as well. Just getting a few people, and if you know anything about Zoom, we have a tool that gives us the ability to let people in from a waiting meeting. So I'm taking care of that. So I don't know if anybody's ever taken classes from me before. I see a couple of names I recognize here. Hi, and I see some people that are on their iPads, probably because you want to use your PC while you're following along with the iPad, maybe, which is a common technique for people on Get Set Up, is that they'll join the meeting on an iPad and then they're able to follow along on their PC. Okay. So we're here for Zoom virtual backgrounds for beginners. I hope that's why you're here. That's why I'm here. Okay, great. Occasionally I may mute everyone just because microphones on laptops and computers and iPads sometimes pick up a lot of extraneous sound. And so if we get any background noise or anything like that, I might mute you. But if you have a question, unmute yourself, wave at me. I do watch the video, windows we're all in. There's a little button at the bottom of your Zoom screen called reactions that gives you the ability to clap or raise your hand or do all kinds of things. If you want to practice using that now, go ahead and feel free to do that. I'm Bob Cohen. We're going to get started in just a minute with Zoom virtual backgrounds. I have a virtual background behind me. That's not really a wall that's painted blue with the Get Set Up logo on it. That's an image that's being used by my computer. And we're going to talk about the magic of virtual backgrounds, but also from a practical standpoint, whether it's really going to work with your computer or not. And sometimes the best way to get it working is just to make sure that that you try it out. And sometimes that's the easiest way to figure it out. We do have a teaching assistant, Joe, from Get Set Up support, who's in chat. So he'll be helping me keep tabs if you have a question or something that keeping you from being able to get the meeting working. Put something in chat and we'll try and help you out. Joe will try and help you out while we're in the meeting. Okay, so think about some questions about virtual backgrounds. I'm going to share my screen and go through a few introductory slides, and then we'll take some questions from people. Okay, we're here to talk about Zoom virtual backgrounds for beginners. I'm Bob Cohen. I'm in Seal Beach, California. I was born in Chicago. I've worked in the tech industry, on my own internet service, on my own training company. I do like to take a sip of coffee occasionally during a meeting. It helps my voice stay a little bit moisturized as we talk. And I like trying to make technology easier for people to understand. Occasionally, you may see me moving my eyes from side to side. That's only because I'm looking at different things on my screen to try and pay attention to what's going on in the meeting, and rearranging a few things on the screen so it's easier for me to keep track of what's going on. So don't always have a chance to look directly in the camera, but I do try to as much as possible. As you know, Get Set Up's a learning community. We learn from, people, we learn new things. I always get an interesting thing I learn in many of my classes. We're going to talk about downloading virtual backgrounds. You can request a recording. Let me make sure we are recording. Yes, we are. And you can email help@getsetup.io to get a copy of a recording. So let me highlight that for you right there in email. Okay. And we have some people that might be joining us by live stream. We encourage you to go to getsetup.io, set up an account, and we might be mentioning some products, websites, or technologies. We're not paid to promote any of them. We're just using them to help provide training for people so that they can learn something. So let's take a look at our agenda for today. And we're going to learn about probably the most technical part of this thing is what are the minimum hardware and software requirements for using Zoom virtual backgrounds, not for using Zoom, because you're all using Zoom now, but we're going to talk about using it for Zoom virtual backgrounds. We're going to talk about changing and adding virtual backgrounds. Okay, so that's a question that Jennifer had. We're going to talk about how they work a little bit differently on desktops, smartphones, and tablets. Tablets and smartphones kind of work the same way, but desktops work differently. So there's a little bit of a difference between desktops and mobile devices. And I'm going to show you a website, and I'm going to send you an email with notes afterwards with all kinds of websites for background photos. Okay, and you'll get some links in that as well. Okay. So let's see, how do I change pictures when you're not on screen? A few other things like that. Let's take a look at some other questions. We'll try and cover that. Okay, so let me stop sharing for a second so I can see you all on video for a second and see what kinds of questions anybody might have before we get started on a few things. And we'll obviously be able to take questions through. Anybody have anything they're burning desires they're hoping to solve or try and figure out about virtual backgrounds? And remember, it's for beginners, so we're going to try and cover everything we can. Sue, you've got your hand up, is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Thank you. I am confused about, I use my desktop mostly, and you may get to this, so if you're going to get to it, that's fine. But I get confused about why, like, I do have a picture set up so that if I join without video, there's a picture versus a black screen. But why if it's already set up on Zoom, why, like, now that I started using you guys get set up, it ends up black, even though I already have the picture on Zoom, and other classes I take, it shows up.
But I'm not sure about that one. I know when you look at like I actually have two devices I'm using on Zoom right now. And so what Sue is talking about, I think, if you're right, is you're talking about the still picture that shows up
Yes.
when you turn your video off. Okay, so if your video is off, and I'm going to turn my video off for a second like this, you see a picture of me. If I'm not mistaken, that picture has to be set up independently on your tablet, your phone, and your desktop in order to work on multiple devices. So if you're joining Zoom from a different device, it might not be there, is the only thing that I can think of. But
No, I'm talking about I'm using my desktop for everything.
yeah.
And when I go to different, I take other classes from Eventbrite, and every time they use Zoom, it'll show up. But now I just started, using your website, and it's not showing up at all. It just shows up with my
Probably
name.
has something to do. Maybe I'm going to check to see if we can get our TA to help maybe look into that. But I think the issue has to do with maybe whether or not how it logs you into Zoom or not. is the only thing I can think of. But we'll see if we can take a look at that later on, okay? Because that's not quite, that picture is not quite as virtual background, but it's a still picture that's part of your account, okay?
Thank you.
Sure, sure. And you know, Pat, we're not gonna, I don't think we're gonna cover exactly how to put a still photo into Zoom because it's kind of a Zoom you know, a feature. It's not quite related to virtual backgrounds, but we'll see if we have time. And if we can, we'll try and take a look at that. But usually I know that if you go to zoom.us or you go to your settings in the Zoom app, it gives you the ability to add a profile photo. Okay. Some of you might not be using virtual backgrounds yet. And so you might be wondering, how do they get that pretty picture of a beach, you know, in the background? I'm going to switch to a couple of different virtual backgrounds while we're here. So, you know, there's one that Zoom provides, like a beach video that shows somebody standing in front of a palm tree. Somebody, you know, you can have an office, you know, that you put in front of things. You can have be in front of a cottage garden. And what I'm doing is switching back and forth in my Zoom virtual background features to change my virtual backgrounds. And so this is what we're going to try and help you accomplish, is so that when you're on the video part with Zoom, you actually have a background that's different from what's really behind you, okay? And that's the virtual background feature in Zoom. So let me share a few slides to kind of explain what's going on here, okay? So the first thing that we have to figure out is our computer, tablet, or smartphone capable of working with virtual backgrounds? Now, that doesn't mean Zoom. It means Zoom may work perfectly well, but the virtual background feature of Zoom, which is what I use to change my backgrounds, requires a bigger engine, so to speak. It requires more horsepower in your computer. And you're going to get a link to this in the email after class. It's called Zoom System Requirements for Virtual Backgrounds. And it explains to you that if you have a Windows, a Mac, Linux, iOS, which is iPhone and iPad, or Android device, you can use Zoom virtual backgrounds. You notice one type of device is not there. Zoom virtual backgrounds does not work with Chromebooks. And so Chromebooks do not support the virtual background feature of Zoom. One main reason is that you need to have a Zoom app, the Zoom app application installed on your computer, smartphone, or tablet, and Chromebooks do not install the Zoom application. But it does work on Windows, Macs, iPhones, iPads, and some Android phones. It doesn't work on everything. And how it works and how well it works depends on how much horsepower, how fast your computer is, and a few other things. So what this website starts to tell you is that on Windows, for example, if you want to use the image only, I'm using a still image, and if you want to use it without a physical green screen, okay, and we're going to talk about what a green screen is, because a green screen is a piece of green fabric. And most people don't have that, okay, at home, but some people do. Okay, so a green screen is something that is happening here that will help you out. Okay, so hold on just 1 second. Let's see if I can find Joe here, our TA. I don't see him getting set in there. Hold on a second. Okay, so what happens is that you might have processors in your computer that are fast enough or not fast enough to make the virtual background feature work. And that's what this information is all about. And so it'll tell you what you need to have in terms of the processor inside your Windows computer for using it with a green screen, without a green screen, or using it with video. Remember, I showed you that video of the palm trees. Video makes it work even harder So those are things that are necessary as well. Okay. So those are features that really are a factor that can make it important to be able to do things in your Zoom virtual background. Okay, so when you're trying to figure out if your processor is the right speed or not, look on the computer somewhere. There's some label somewhere that tells you what model you got, what brand it is, and just do a Google search for that brand, and you'll typically find what kind of CPU, what kind of processor is inside your computer. And it'll say like Intel i5, with 2 cores or 7th generation. That's what's going to tell you whether your computer. But if you have a problem with Zoom virtual backgrounds not working well, 90% of the time it's in the speed of your computer technology, but it can also be affected by a few other things. We'll talk about those, okay? I just wanted to show you that. Now, certain types of Android models and iPhone models, iPhone 8s and newer work, and sometimes it's easier just to try it out on your computer to see if it really works, to see what's going on, and then double check to see if it's a processor speed issue. This is a green screen, okay? A green screen is a piece of physical fabric. The reason a green screen is commonly referred to when you're doing something like video or virtual backgrounds is that you might be here, okay? That's not a very good picture, but I'll try and put a smile on my face there, okay? And you have a camera on your computer that's commonly called a webcam here. And it's viewing everything. It's viewing you, and it might also be viewing whatever is behind you. Maybe you've got a bookshelf, maybe you've got a chair, whatever you've got here behind you. And your camera is showing everything behind you. So for most of you that do not have a virtual background working right now, what's showing up on your video in Zoom is you and what is really behind you. The magic of a green screen technology or a virtual background technology is that the camera says, oh, I'm going to eliminate what's behind you and replace it with a picture that I'm going to pull from my computer. So instead of using what is really, behind you, I'm going to pull this picture and put it in Zoom so that when people see you on Zoom, they don't see what's really behind you. They see a picture instead. Okay, that's what your computer is doing when it creates a virtual background. It's saying, I'm going to ignore what's really behind Bob, and I'm going to replace what's behind Bob with a picture that I'm going to pull from my computer. That's what virtual backgrounds do. It's pretty neat. I don't know how it's done, but it's pretty neat when it happens. Okay, so this whole thing about a green screen means that if you have something like me here, and I'm, got a visual image here behind me, I have the ability to change my background. Now, if I turn off this, if I go to none and I change it, you see the real green fabric. This is a piece of fabric behind me. I can touch this. It's physical, right? It's real. The reason this is important, it would help probably. And the reason it's important is that if your computer is trying to figure out what's behind you, and is it light or dark or red or blue or yellow or whatever, and it has to make all those decisions, you can make it easier on your computer to say, wait a second, just ignore everything that's green. Just ignore what's green, and you make life a little easier on your computer. So, and who doesn't want to make life easier for their computer, right? So that's what a green screen does. It makes your computer work less. And so sometimes a green screen can really do something really, really neat, so it can make it work more effectively for you. And so it makes a few things. So like if I wear glasses, so if I turn my head sideways, with a green screen, it looks much more natural. You can see the back of my chair. Things are a little more comfortable. If I hold up my phone, you can see my phone in my hand. If I went to say, I don't have a green screen, let me try that out. And I use this virtual background. You see things are a little kind of hazy around my hair, and my phone looks a little bit different like that. So a green screen is one of the best things if you're looking for the absolute best quality when you use a virtual background, but it's not necessary. Okay, it's not necessary if you have a fast enough computer. Like I can do it like this and it looks pretty much okay, right? This is without a green screen and it looks pretty much okay. But if I add the green screen function, it makes it really, really sharp. That's what green screens are. Okay, so everybody's that's a common question for people. What are they now? You can buy the fabric really, really inexpensively. It's not very expensive. Bright green works better. It's technically called chroma key, which you don't have to remember. But if you're a video producer and you want to go on to make great YouTube videos, chroma key is the technical color. You can even paint a wall behind you if you have a free wall that you can use for Zoom meetings. But the more expensive models have roll-up stands or screen, holders that hold them and things like that. That's the only difference in price, really, is the price of the size, how big the fabric is, and something that's usually about arm lengths wide works just fine. Any questions about green screens? Because obviously sometimes this really causes a lot of confusion. I just want to make sure you understand this is a real physical piece of fabric. Okay. Sue, do you have a question? Yeah.
So, and that's what I was trying to figure out. I think you just answered my question, but if you don't have a green screen, that may be why when you have a virtual background, you appear to be kind of fading in and out, or like you have to kind of sometimes reposition your head so that you're not blending into the background.
Well, if it doesn't work with if it works without if it doesn't work without a green screen, that usually means your computer is not quite fast enough to make it work fast. It really, really takes a lot of computing power to make it work. Using a green screen makes it a little bit easier and a little bit sharper, but it helps no matter what the speed of your computer is if you have a real green screen anyway.
Okay.
Some people's light, and the other thing that can affect it is the lighting. You want to have a lot of lighting facing you and not behind you. If you have a bright window or a light behind you, that makes it harder for the camera to tell you from the background. So having more lighting in front of you and a dark background makes it easier too. And so that can have a factor. And sometimes it's the webcam, but a green screen is one of the least expensive things. One of the students in one of our classes got a green screen for $20 and put it up behind her. And she says now she can use virtual backgrounds all the time with her computer. And so but some people have decided, I think I'm going to upgrade my computer because if you get a fast enough computer, you can sometimes use it without a green screen just fine. Okay. How do you get to this virtual background feature? A couple of ways to do it. Okay, one way is to open up the Zoom app on your device and click on the gears setting in your device on your app, and then select background and filters. And this is where you usually see whether your computer works with virtual backgrounds or doesn't, because it might tell you right away it doesn't, or it might say none and not have any other virtual backgrounds there. But you can always try clicking the plus button if you can do it and see and finding a picture on your computer. That's what it's really looking for here, is it wants to find a picture. Zoom does give you some standard ones, about 4 or 5, but you can add a picture from your computer. We're going to look at doing this, and we're going to walk through it step by step on my PC, and we're going to walk through it on my tablet too. The other thing, and I find it actually a little bit easier, is when you're not in a meeting, start up the Zoom app. You need to log into your Zoom account, but if you're logged into your Zoom account, you can start up a meeting, and you start a new meeting anytime. It's just you. So there's no one else there. Zoom lets you start a meeting with just you, and then you get the ability to manage your Zoom controls anytime you want to. I'm going to show you the desktop first. Okay, on the desktop, you typically in the lower left-hand corner in Zoom, you've got a microphone and you've got a video camera. And if you just want to preview your virtual background, you can stop the video. Okay, that'll stop you from broadcasting live. But for people to actually see it, that you've got to have video turned on. But this little arrow, tiny little up arrow next to the video camera pops up a menu. And then I blew this up a little bit, so it's a little fuzzy, but it says choose virtual background. And when you click on that, it takes you to this screen on the left here. This is the first thing you'll see. And it automatically has this selected for background and filters. Then you click on the plus button, and then it'll give you the option to add image or add video, but add image is usually going to be there. And then it brings up the menu of your folders on your computer. And you just have to know where to find a photo. Okay, one of the things we're going to look at is where to get photos on the internet for virtual backgrounds too. You don't like those standard ones that come with Zoom. So we're going to walk through this, okay? And then everything works, and voila, this is one we did for Valentine's Day back in February for the class. It gives you a virtual background, okay? I guess I could have smiled for that, couldn't I? Okay, on tablets and laptops, it works a little differently. But it needs two things. First of all, when you tap on your phone, you'll typically see the Zoom controls at the bottom. So at the bottom, you'll see this thing. Let me go back here. Okay, sorry.
Could I ask you a question?
You bet.
How do I get to the settings on Zoom? I don't see a place.
Well, we're going to walk through that, okay? So
Okay, that's cool.
walk
That's
you
okay.
through that, okay? Are you on a desktop or a laptop, Yolanda?
No,
Well,
I have a PC that I'm doing, and right now I'm on a Mac.
okay, great. It works the same on Windows and Macs. It works differently on smartphones and tablets, okay? So
Okay.
let's take, I want to point that I want to show everyone what we're going to do, and then we're going to walk through it. You're going to see me walk through it, and you can
Sounds
walk
good.
through it at the same time too, okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Now on phones and tablets, instead of looking for a video camera with an up arrow, you look for the little 3 dots that say more, okay? And when you see the 3 dots that say more and you tap on that, it brings up a menu. And in that menu, it'll say something like virtual background or background and filters. Now on phones and tablets, one of the things you have to do, it'll say, Zoom will ask you for permission to access your photos. And you have to say yes, because otherwise the Zoom app can't get to your photos. But once you do that, you don't have to do it again. And then you can pick a photo from your device and use that as a virtual background. Okay, yeah, Christine, you have a question.
Yes, I'm on an iPhone, but I don't see the three dots.
If you tap your screen, are you in a Zoom meeting on your iPhone? You're in Zoom?
Yeah, and I click the settings gear, but I still don't see the three dots.
When you're clicking on, when you're in, if you're not in the meeting in Zoom and you're on your phone, you have to be, if you click on the settings gear, you typically, from what I understand you have to actually start a meeting in your phone and
Oh,
actually,
now I see it. I click start a meeting. Now I see the three
yeah.
dots.
Yeah, if you go to new meeting, then you'll see it. And that's how you have to do it on a phone or a tablet. You can't actually get to it from the settings by itself on a mobile device.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So this is when usually
have a
everybody starts to get ahead of me, you know?
I had a question too. On my Mac, when I click on Zoom, it just says join meeting. How do I,
When you're in a meeting, it's going to be different. We're going to take a look at that right now when you're in a meeting, because I can show you because I'm in the meeting with you. Okay.
uh-huh,
Okay. So when you're in a meeting, and let me get rid of a few things here on my screen. Okay, to make some room here. So I have the slides. I'm going to hide that a little bit and do this. And I have to go to my full screen. Okay. Try and make this as big as possible for you, although it sometimes is hard. And I'm going to share my whole screen. Okay, so when I'm looking at my Zoom meeting, okay, you should see something similar to this when you're in a Zoom meeting. You see the gallery and you see the information at the bottom. Now you won't have as many buttons as I do because I am the host of the meeting, but you should have a microphone in the lower left and a video camera in the lower left, right? And that's what you want to look for in the lower left-hand corner of your desktop. You want to look for the video camera image icon. And next to that video camera icon is a tiny little arrow, very, very, very small. Let me draw a circle over it, okay? So that you can see. It is really, really, really small, this tiny little arrow, okay? And you want to click on that little arrow and it pops up a menu. When you click on that arrow, it pops up the menu and it'll say, one of the items will say choose virtual background, or it might say your computer doesn't support virtual backgrounds, which sometimes happens too. But when you see choose virtual background in that list, you just click on choose virtual background and the settings pop up automatically. So when you're in a Zoom meeting, to get to the virtual background options, you just click on that arrow next to the video camera and it'll pop up that screen. Now, if I have a green screen checked off because I do have a green screen, but if you don't have one, you don't want to check that off. Okay, it's only for when you have a physical green screen. So Cindy, were you able to find the setting okay?
Yes, I just was able to do it on my desktop, but I can't find it on my iPad.
Yeah, if you're not, you have to, if you're not in a meeting in your iPad, are you in a meeting on the iPad too?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to look at the iPad in just a minute because I'm going to share my iPad screen with you after we do this one more time, okay?
Okay.
Victoria, you have your hand up.
Click on the virtual background and I have the background filter, but there's no picture. It just shows none.
Okay, when you see none, it could be because your computer is not fast enough to support them, the virtual backgrounds. So what you typically Zoom will have a couple of standard pictures they have for you, typically the grass and the San Francisco.
Yeah, I have none of this picture.
Right. So if you just see none,
yes,
try clicking on I have a green screen and see if they appear. And if they don't appear, then what I do recommend is try downloading the latest version of the Zoom application from zoom.us. It could be that and if that doesn't work, then it could be that your computer is just not fast enough to support virtual backgrounds is all.
Okay. Can you give me the website again?
We're going to get it in the email that
Okay.
comes out as notes. Okay.
Okay.
I have a question,
Who's that?
Diane.
Diane, go ahead.
I too have none in my settings options, and I hit the plus, and I have a brand new Mac, so I would think it's got all the bells and whistles that I would need, but when I hit the plus, it
Well, when you hit, we'll talk about when you hit plus. Okay. Are you seeing, it says none?
it says none in a black rectangle.
Okay. So that usually means that you might have to download the latest version of Zoom from the zoom.us website. That is one thing that can fix that usually. But if you hit the plus button, it just gives you access to photos that you can use for virtual backgrounds. We're going to take a look at that in a minute. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let me get caught up with everybody. Victoria, did you have another question? Okay. Let me lower her hand. Okay. Okay. So
I have a checkbox on the green screen, but still I see nothing.
okay, that could be your computer. I would go to zoom.us to download the latest version of Zoom to see if that might be the reason why you don't see anything. And then once you're updated to the latest version, if you're not getting any virtual backgrounds functions, then because Zoom's standard settings give you the ability to do it. But it could be that you check your computer to see if it's fast enough to support. Okay.
And when I click plus, nothing happened.
Right. So we're going to talk about clicking plus. So let me catch
Okay.
with everyone. Okay.
Okay.
So I can show you. Okay. So when we click on here's virtual backgrounds, and I do have a green, I'm going to click on a virtual background here, just my setting. When I click on the plus button, it brings up the option. It says add image. Okay. You can add videos too, but most people just want to add an image. If I click on add image, it brings up my folders on my computer. So if I have to have a picture on my computer in order to use it as a virtual background. So this is saying, okay, I want to add a picture. So if I don't have any pictures, I'm going to have to get some. I'm going to show you a website where you can get some. So if I wanted to, I've set up some pictures in a folder called backgrounds. And if
Bruce, can you make your screen larger? Is that possible? Because you're tiny.
Unfortunately, I can't on this.
Okay.
What you can do is you can go up to Zoom's controls at the top and change the scale of what you see.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I got it.
Because I know it is small because that's what's on my real screen. Okay, so when I select the picture and I click open, it opens up the picture and puts it in my virtual background. But I have to have a picture on my computer in order to use it as a virtual background. Once I've chosen it, it's saved in Zoom's selection here. So I can go back to it anytime I want to, or go back to an older picture that I've used at one time for my virtual background. So let me go through that again because we had a few interruptions. Let me try and go through that step by step one more time. Okay, we go to the video control, the video camera, look for the arrow next to the camera, click on it, click on choose virtual background, then click the plus button underneath our image here and add image, and then find a picture that we might want to use and use that for our virtual background. Okay. Now, obviously, if you don't have a picture to choose from and you don't know where your pictures are, that's another issue, but that's, you have to be able to find a picture in a folder. But anytime you can find a picture, you can use it, or you can use Zoom's other virtual backgrounds. I see some people are, using the palm trees, and Aurora Borealis, the video background there. But you can use any picture you find that you might want to use as a virtual background. Okay, so let's see if we can take a look at a tablet. Most of the time this works, but I will tell you sometimes we do have a glitch and it doesn't always work, but let me try it out. Okay, I'm going to take my tablet here in front of me and I'm going to try sharing my screen. I can't point to everything, but I can try to, I can at least show you a little bit of what it looks like. Okay, so now I'm sharing my iPad screen. Okay, and it's just white because I'm not sharing anything special. In the top where it says leave, Zoom, join audio, start video, stop share, participants, and 3 dots that say more. Okay, if I tap on those 3 dots, it brings up the menu. And this is usually when you'll know your device is good enough to work with backgrounds. And so it'll say virtual background or backgrounds and filters. So if I tap on backgrounds and filters, it'll show me in my iPad camera, and it'll bring up a menu, says background. Okay, it may say none. Okay, or but I've added some. And the first time you do it, it'll ask you to click on, won't ask you, but you click on the plus button. Okay, and the plus button gives you the ability to add pictures. Okay, so the first time you use it, it will ask you for permission to access photos on your device. And so you have to do it in order for it to get to the photos in your library. So if I click on a photo here of get set up, for example, and then I click done, it changes my virtual background. This is actually my iPad screen. I can click on I have a green screen, but I can't choose video. I haven't actually tried choosing a video from the background here, but once, if you click on green screen, sometimes it'll improve the quality. Sometimes it doesn't, but those, you have fewer options on iPhones and iPads than you do on the desktop application when you use Zoom.
How would you
Yeah.
cancel the green? How would you cancel the chosen photo?
Well, if you want to switch to something different, you can see where it says to the right of me, where it says background. It has all the different photos I've used before. I just tap on them and it switches to different photos, or I tap none, or I can tap on the plus button and pick a different one and it'll save it. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so now that we're in this program and we chose a background, if we are going to another Zoom meeting totally different, will that same picture be there, or do we have to create a different one?
Oh, I love that question, because 98.735% of the time, Althea, it keeps the picture the same. But there are some instances, and I honestly don't know what causes it, where it sometimes doesn't bring back the same background. Most of the time it does. Most of the time it brings back the last background you were using. But I do always recommend you save your background photos. If you're using a photo like a bookshelf or something like that, save it in a folder so that if Zoom does something to it, you can bring it back whenever you need to, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Now I'm gonna stop my screen sharing on my, again, on iPads and iPhones, you need to be in a meeting or start a new meeting, and then you tap that more button that brings up the options that you have available in the meeting. And one of those is virtual background. Okay, I'm going to set my computer down for a second. All right, so now, anybody curious about where you can find photos on the internet? Okay, so my desktop only says add image and not the stock images. Yeah, Cindy, I would update Zoom. If you'd only see the stock, if you don't see any stock images, update Zoom. There's sometimes Zoom shows none, and it's there because it might not, where it is. So if you have an older iPad, check the settings. You might have an iPad that's 4 or 5 years old, and sometimes, usually anything within about 3 or 4 years, if it's a good computer. But if you don't know exactly the speed of the computer or the model of iPad, or a model of phone, you check it against the Zoom virtual background requirements, because that's a physical limitation. Your device just isn't going to work with virtual backgrounds, is what's going to happen.
Could you tell us,
Bob,
I'm sorry.
are you finished?
We're going to show you some ways to find some pictures on the web, but who has a question?
I have a question. How do you update Zoom?
Wait, Yolanda, were you talking? I'm sorry.
Yes, I wanted to just say that my PC already updated Zoom, but it doesn't have the options. It's already been uploaded, but it's not giving me my options. So I'll just have to wait and come back another time and listen to this.
Well, check it against, find out what your processor is in your computer, because it may be the speed of the computer that might be, or you can check the zoom.us settings to see if there's a problem.
So I'll do that later and then come back on another one. Thank you so much. Good information.
Sure. Diane, you had a question, your hand up.
Yes, very basically. How does one update Zoom? And does updating it mean it automatically overrides the old version?
It will override the old version, yes. And you go to zoom.us to get the latest downloads of Zoom. And I recommend that, now that you know a little bit about virtual backgrounds and something you want to use, there's about 3 or 4 different Zoom classes that we offer on Get Set Up as well. Okay, so some of you are getting some virtual backgrounds up there. Let me show you a website where you can get images. Okay, you're going to get a link to this website in the handout. There's actually quite a few. We actually do a class on finding free photos on the internet. There's lots of ways to get images and other things. Obviously, if you take a picture, that's great. But there's one website called pexels.com. That's a good website. They have perfectly free legal photos to use. And if I wanted to search for, say, a flower garden, I can just type in a search word and hit my enter key, and it'll bring up flowers. Okay, and these are all free and legal to use. So if I wanted to use this one for my background, I would scroll over to the download button, and when I click on that, it's going to download the photo to my desktop, my download folder. Okay. So now if I want to use it as a virtual background, let me stop sharing here and I will go to my full screen. And if I go to the video control, choose virtual background, click the plus button and add image. I put this on my desktop somewhere. Okay, so what did I do? Okay, there's it, Lee Patrick. That's the one I downloaded just now. I click on open and voila, I've got a new virtual background. So it's about finding photos, and obviously photos that you take These are some photos that I took in my, son's garden. But, obviously, if you have photos that you've taken, you can use any of those anytime as your virtual background as well. Now, it doesn't mean Zoom is going to work. Zoom works with or without a virtual background. Remember, what we're doing here is we're replacing what's behind me with a virtual, with a picture instead. That's what we're doing. So that's how we change our virtual background feature. So I see Bonnie, Kathy, Colleen, Debbie, Linda, you're all getting some virtual background. Richard, you're all getting some virtual background set up. And what'll happen is that if you're seeing yourself pretty clear, but if you start to get parts of your image don't seem to fade in and out, that could be because of the lighting. If you have strong lighting in back of you, that's not good. And so you want to have a lot of light in front of you that's hitting your face, so the camera is able to tell you from the background. You might need to upgrade your webcam. Sometimes better webcams work better, but obviously the fastest computer you can afford will obviously make it possible to make virtual backgrounds work as well. And again, with older models of computers and lower performance models, that can make a bigger difference. The better the quality of the computer, because you're really making your computer do a lot of work. Okay, so let me stop sharing and see what kinds of questions we might have coming up here. Sue, you got your hand up?
Yes, when you, when you added that photo, you have that, I don't know what it's called, but it's got a list, it's got like your pictures there that you then go back and can click on in Zoom. How many does it hold in there? You know what I mean? Like it's got all the virtual ones that they provide, and then you add your own photos. Do you know how many it can save right there before you have to delete some?
Boy, that's what Sue's asking me is this whole library of photos that I have here for virtual backgrounds, this list right here.
Yep.
I've had as many as 30, but I don't know how many it will keep and how many when it would stop. Okay. So I haven't gone beyond 30 ever, so I can't say, but I know it goes that far. Okay.
And then do you know, like I do think after listening to you that part of my issue is I have to download the new version. So when I download the new version and will that, I have photos in there. Do you know when I download the new version, will those photos still be there, or do I have to go back and save them again?
Let's see. When I downloaded my latest version, it did save the photos because what it does, but I can't guarantee it. Okay, because I don't make Zoom. But I know what happens. What's technically happening is that when you click on plus and you add a photo, you are linking the photo to the Zoom application. So as long as you have the photo on your computer in the same place, Zoom should be able to, list it in this list of virtual backgrounds. Okay, but I always have a folder that I have of virtual backgrounds that I save.
That's a good idea.
Because you can never be sure. You can never be 100% sure. And so I always, make sure that if I lost my virtual background or something, happened or, who knows, right? I just don't know. Okay. And let's see. So Bonnie had a question about, can you delete the ones you don't like? Yes. Yeah, you can delete the ones you don't like by going to choose virtual background. And when you hover over any one, like this video, I deleted the video from my computer, so it can't find it. So if I click on the X, it deletes the photo from my virtual backgrounds. It doesn't delete the photo on my computer. It just deletes it on my virtual backgrounds. So it just is removing it from my virtual backgrounds. Again, it doesn't delete the photo from the computer itself. Okay, so that's how, if you don't like it and you don't want to bother, because sometimes you can just scroll through and end up selecting too much. So school, universities, nonprofits, associations, lots of times they'll put virtual backgrounds up that they make available for people to use, because they're trying to promote their brand and their logo and who they are and everything like that. So you'll find lots of times you'll find clubs and other organizations have virtual backgrounds. And obviously, if you can create a little theme, for your virtual background as well, that people, might find interesting, if you're, raising money for a nonprofit, or you have a particular cause or something like that, that you're trying to make people aware of. Or holiday, there was an Earth Day background theme that gets set up, created for us to use for Earth Day. So just different things, and different themes and activities that you might be interested in doing. But this will help you pick out some places you can go, finding ways, downloading the one. So some people want to know, how do you set the picture? There's a setting. I'm going to share my screen. I don't know if it works on all devices, but if you go to your settings controls, you can choose anything to choose settings, and you go to profile. This is where you can edit your profile. You basically have to edit your profile in Zoom, and that gives you the ability to modify it. You should just go to your zoom.us account. Is what you need to do, is go to zoom.us, and that's where you can change your profile picture. It will always take you to zoom.us automatically for that. And so you may as well just go to zoom.us, and that gives you the ability to change your profile picture, so that when you're not using your video, it shows a still picture. It gets that from your zoom.us account. Okay, one more question, and then I'll wrap up, and I'll stay on for a minute or two afterwards. If anything else, okay? Okay, so let me show you a few things about, let's take a look at our summary and what we've covered today, and taking a look at different things we've seen about understanding. Probably the hardest part is understanding the system requirements, because if it's not working well, that's usually something to do with your computer, or downloading the latest version of Zoom. Some ways to change your backgrounds, websites for free photos. You're going to get an follow-up email that'll have lots of things. I recommend taking, Zoom is a very sophisticated application. So I recommend taking Zoom for beginners, or we have advanced Zoom classes. Sometimes we do a class on Zoom's whiteboard and annotations and other things. And even tools like PowerPoint lets you create images that you can use in Zoom as well. So there's things that you can learn from a lot of different technologies. So sorry about that, didn't have it on mute. So you'll get an email with class notes. You can give us some feedback. Obviously, if it's new for a lot of you, give it a try. Come again to another class, check your computer out. Invite a friend when you register for the class next time, because they might be interested in virtual backgrounds as well. So we hope to see you next time. You can always request the recording, suggest a class, reach anybody at help@getsetup.io. We monitor this email, every day. So if you have a question or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. So did we learn something new about virtual backgrounds today? Okay, good. All right. All right. Give it a try. You know, it's going to work differently depending on what kind of device you have and how you use it. And, you know, try checking out some websites for pictures and we'll see how it goes. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming today.
Thank you, Bob. It was
Yeah.
great.
Bye, everyone.
Have-
Thank you. I really enjoyed the class. Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.